everyone, Lou here. As someone who's a huge Vocaloid fan, I think it's time to talk about the one Vocaloid game I hardly see anybody in the community talk about unless they're involved in the Love Live and Idolmaster community. Let's take a look at Project Sekai. Project Sekai is a mobile game created by Sega, Krypton Feature Media, and Craft Egg that released on September 30th, 2020 to some pretty high reviews, as well as many Vocaloid fans shocked we were receiving a phone version of what was basically a Project Diva game, technically speaking. Some fans would praise the game for highlighting through the story how the Vocaloid community brings a lot of creatives together and creates lifelong friendships through virtual singing programs, while others shame the game for being a gacha game, as well as technically creating a canon personality for Miku, despite it being clear for decades now that Vocaloid characters are whatever you want them to be. I also apologize, I won't be able to show gameplay or anything because I don't have anything to record my phone screen with, and obviously an app emulator would be impossible to use given Project Sekai's gameplay, so you'll have to stick to my Project Diva gameplay. But let's look in and see if anything other people are saying is true. Okay, so the story isn't technically one long story, but instead divided into 5 other stories about different band groups. Some of the people in the group are connected, like the keyboardist in Leonid is the younger sister to the male lead singer of Wonderland Showtime. These stories are sort of an isekai. Basically, in this game's continuity, when you have strong feelings with a group of like-minded friends, it creates a world, or Sekai, and even an interpretation of Hatsune Miku and other Krypton Vocaloids. For instance, in Night Court at 2500, the main character is a girl dealing with a lot of grief and depression, so her world is empty and has a Miku who reflects her own personality. Sort of a strange wake-up call for her and allowing her to make friends with others. Another example is in Wonderland Showtime. Everyone in this group is extremely optimistic and want to be happy-go-lucky performers as well. So one of the members in the group being the sister of a CEO of a huge amusement park company, so their world is a theme park and has a super bubbly Hatsune Miku to reflect their optimism and hope. It's actually really sweet, and I think it does a good job at making a really weird way of explaining that Vocaloid reflects with everyone differently, and how we all connect and become friends through Hatsune Miku works differently for everyone. To be honest, the stories for each one remind me of what Project Diva X wanted to do. There's also event stories, many of which are either side stories or bonuses at the end of certain stories, which is pretty cool. At the time I was playing, there was a really cute epilogue storyline for Wonderland Showtime about the character Emu learning how to balance being responsible and having creative vision. I'd say the stories are pretty well written and really heartfelt. Sometimes they can be a little cheesy, but there's nothing wrong with a little cheese, right? Overall, very, very good stories, and I had a lot of fun reading them. Okay, you know what's weird? Despite the layout being easier than Project Diva games, for some reason this game can get pretty hard, and I say that's a welcome challenge as someone who loves rhythm games. Though I do have to highly recommend you either play with a tablet or a phone with a big screen because this game isn't really suitable for people with big fingers or a small screen. It can be hard to get the timing right on the buttons of the keys in that sense. Much like Love Live, which I did play on an older phone of mine a few years ago, this game is a unit gacha, which means the higher power and rarity of your character card, the better score you'll get during the gameplay. Even if you score perfectly at a game, like flawless, if you have 1-star characters, you'll never get higher than a B score. Which honestly sucks to me. Like, it does make the game feel pretty unfair in that case, in that it's less skill-based and more how much money can you dump into us case. However, the game is pretty generous with its in-game currency, so it shouldn't be too difficult to obtain a 3 or even 4-star character with newcomers anyway. Basically, a lot of the problems with the game come early on for new players, like having to buy tracks, play a fuck ton of the songs you enjoy for the story, etc. But you'll find that eventually you'll reach a point where you don't need to grind so heavily anymore, so I say it's all good. I will say though that the song selection for Project Sekai is easily my favorite of any Vocaloid rhythm game so far. Not only do you have the obvious classics like Meltdown, Tell Your World, and Ghost Rule, but for the first time since Gumi's game on the PSP and her cameo in Project Mirai, there are songs of non-Krypton Vocaloids in here like Flower, Iya, and Gumi. It might be due to the fact that, unlike Project Eva games, Project Sekai doesn't have to use music videos for these characters they don't have the rights to, and if there is a music video, it's supposed to be for the cover version featuring the characters from Project Sekai. It's like when a Vocaloid producer doesn't have the legal right to sell anything with the image of a certain Vocaloid, so instead the album cover will often be vague and maybe somewhat unrelated. Like Circus P's album 715, which contains Vocaloids he only had the music rights to profit off of, so he had to make a mascot character for the album. Still really awesome, though I do have to point out that some covers and remixes featuring the Krypton Vocaloids are with their beta and T voice banks, including their voice lines in the story mode, which is also voiced by the Vocaloid. I have to say that honestly, they sound kind of bad, really robotic, especially Luca and poor Kaito. Makes me kind of worried for how dog shit Luca and Kaito will sound with their NT voice banks, which will officially release at some point, but I suppose it could be worse. Overall, while the gameplay does somewhat rely heavily on the gacha mechanic, it is still an extremely good song selection and has a forgiving system when you're a new player, so I guess it kind of makes up for it. I'm not gonna go over the characters one by one because that's way too fucking many to go over, analyze and all that when there's not a lot of depth to them. I'm also the only one to edit my videos, and in order to make my videos release in a timely manner, I gotta cut some corners, but I will still go over the band they're in and kind of explain their dynamics instead. Leonid. This group reminds me a lot of the Project Diva music video for the song Double Ganger by Kofi Q and Kakakokari P. It's like girls in a rock group who deal with life problems, but music brings them back together, man. Like that, you know, except ×2 because we've got 4 girls this time. Their dynamic is largely established already because they're all childhood friends, except slightly traumatic incidents split them apart when one of the girls got so sick she had to remain in the hospital for over a year. So it's them trying to piece back together what they knew about each other and reconnecting as besties. I think the only character in this squad I don't like is Hinomori Shiho because she's honestly kind of a bitch, but that's just my opinion. Their songs consist of the more emotionally charged rock songs fitting for such an angst-filled group, so like Dramaturgy, Kagoro Days, Ghost Rule, and From Y to Y are the kind of songs they prefer to perform. More Jump. The group consists of ex-idols except for the lead girl Minori, who wants to become an idol and inspires the group of idols again to come out of their retirement with her optimism and cheerful personality. In my opinion, I think they're a little more generic than the other groups here because idol culture isn't really my thing, but the character designs are pretty cool and some of the characters are charming. In particular, I think Hinomori Shizuku is a gorgeous character design and I like their uniforms. Their song choice is a little weird because you'd expect them to be filled to the brim with Michi M songs, especially when their group is named after a Michi M song he wrote for the game, but apparently not. Their songs are the more fun-loving but also etc. Vocaloid songs like Happy Halloween, Dreaming Choo Choo, Nostalgic, and Happy Synthesizer. But also really ill-fitting songs for a group like this like Karakuri Pirate and Torinoko City. Cute group with amazing song choices, but just not totally my thing. Vivid Bad Squad. You guys ever see literally every street band or urban band meet in an alleyway and become besties? Yeah, that's this group and honestly I'm here for it. The group is just really fun and rebellious, with the main girl being kind of shy and in a group of rebels, just really neat stuff to me. They also have a really fun song selection that I think fits their group pretty well, like Dr. Funk Beat, Echo, and Yobanashi Deceive. But also, like, who can fucking forget the legendary male cover of Ifudodo with Kaito and the two male characters in the group? Like, I actually love that cover more than the original. Overall, very fun group, and I love their sort of Skate the Infinity meets Jet Set Radio kind of colorful rebellion, if that makes sense. Like, these characters honestly kind of look like Skate the Infinity OCs, if you ask me. Wonderland Showtime. This is another group that is one of my favorites because unlike More Jump, I feel like there's a lot more heart and development into the group that sets them apart and makes them enjoyable as a cutesy idol group. So the main character wants to be an idol because he was amazed at a musical show he went to with his sister who was in Leonid and just wants to make people smile and feel happy. But he kind of failed his audition, except a girl named Emu saw his audition and hires him at her family's theme park where the two hire more singers and form a group. Despite their vast personality differences, the group all click together really well and feel really fleshed out like Leonid. Their song list is also one of the best songs like Tapo Rock, King, Alien, and Sweet Magic. Night Chord at 2500. Okay, this group is basically just the angsty one who took all the sad songs, I guess. The main girl loses her parents and heavily relies on the internet, so it's a lot more in-depth because the girl makes a social media music site where she meets the girls that would later form her group. I haven't fully played their story because it's definitely a lot more complicated and sad than the other ones in it, since it involves themes of grief, anxiety, and depression a lot more than the other groups here. I guess they're the more story-heavy ones. Their songs heavily reflect that with songs like Hide and Seek Envy, Self-Afflicted Achromatic, Phony, Love Me, and Hello, How Are You? Nice group though. If you are new to the channel, which by the way you should totally subscribe because I never shut up about Vocaloid, I fucking love angst and tortured characters overcoming trauma, so this group feels like it was written just for me, and I will continue the story once I get more of their songs. Overall, while some groups are not my favorite, others definitely are. I wasn't expecting to like the non-Vocaloid characters, but I do actually, and it made the game's story a pleasant surprise actually. Project Sekai turned into one big pleasant surprise for me as someone who wasn't exactly expecting to even like it in the first place. Not because I'm some Project Diva feature tone purist, because I probably am, but because I find that writing a story with Hatsune Miku as a central character to be a difficult thing, when she's quite literally what everyone wants her to be. She can be a 40-year-old chain-smoking cynical bitch, or a 5-year-old baby, you know? That's why I appreciate this game managing to leave Miku open to interpretation by introducing Sekai and how her and the other Vocaloids are whatever your heart needs them to be for you. That and the gameplay was actually pretty fun and challenging. It's definitely a lot easier than Project Diva games since you don't have to memorize the XO, triangle, and square buttons or whatever layout you use with it, but with basically 2 buttons, it manages to be pretty challenging. It kind of reminds me what the party mode in Megamix on the Switch wanted to be, now that I think about it, but actually made it good. Anyway, Project Sekai is an extremely fun game with a great story and characters, but you guys let me know down below what you think. Are you a fan of Project Sekai? Is there anything you don't like about it? As always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!